there, this is Colette. I'm here with Seeing Things. Welcome to my show. I hope you enjoy talking about some spooky, maybe not so spooky things, just paranormal in general. And I'm here to talk about Bigfoot today. I have seen this video floating around on social media. I wondered if anyone else has had experiences like this man has. Check it out.
So this is Kubota. He's an elder. And the evidence to substantiate this footage is real is absolutely incredible because the eye spacing is non-human. And when you look at this, if it's non-human eye spacing, you clearly can see nasal moving.
There's his face
yeah,
right in there.
I mean, it's clearly the blinking eyes, the wet eyes,
He looks human.
It does, but the spacing between the eyes are not human. And if you saw that in real life, you'd realize the head is, 15 inches across. This is Jake. So a Sasquatch I had incredible live interactions with. He was actually a friend of mine. I considered him a good teacher of mine. There you can see him blinking.
So I am on the edge of my woods here, back behind my house. We've lived here for about 5 years, and these woods have a definite, I wouldn't say negative energy as much as just maybe not super friendly to humans. They're fine during the day. I have a lot of tree friends. There's a beautiful big sycamore back there. Very, very good energy during the day. But once it starts getting to be night, there's definitely, like dusk, the energy changes, gets very shifty. I think that the woods are very protective of their space. It's a little habitat in this urban area. It's about 15 acres back there or so. And they protect a lot of deer and animals who have been squeezed out of the city area. And I think that there are a lot of protective energies back there for them that aren't necessarily there for us as humans. So I've had a conversation with the dowsing rods back there at dusk one day. And basically just asked who I was speaking to, and it identified itself as an entity similar to Bigfoot. Not quite though. I didn't really ask much about description of what it looked like, but it was big apparently. They could see us and we can't see them. And that's of their choosing. That's what it said. That it chose to keep... It's not there to scare us. It's there to protect the woods. And so it said that it wasn't harmful or dangerous to us as long as we were respectful of the area they are protecting. They said that there were many of them back there and that we cannot see them and we won't see them because they've chosen to remain in the shadows, but that they can watch us and that they don't mind us being here in particular, but to respect the space basically. So that led me to being more interested in the Bigfoot tradition in this area. And that also led me to this book, which I love very much, called Haunted Winston Salem, which it's just one of those typical borderline touristy books that talk about the haunted history in your area. And if you've never picked one of those books up, if you have one for your city, I highly recommend it. It's just a new insight into, I don't know, just the energies in your city. It might explain some things. Anyway, I'd love to read that chapter to you if you're interested. Stay tuned for that. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if this information is interesting to you. So, stick around for my chapter on, well, they call them boogers here, but essentially Bigfoot. Yeah. I came back inside on my back porch and I'm going to read you a chapter. Here's the front of the book, Haunted Winston Salem. This is called The Booger Comes at Night, and it's chapter 4. In our previous tales, we have touched on supernatural events and witchcraft. The 4th installment concerns a monster or man. The Native Americans believed it to be something of both. The Bigfoot Sasquatch legend has been around for forever. The early Saponi and Cherokee Indian tribes of the Piedmont, dating back 8,000 years, speak of these creatures throughout their history. The respect that the Indians show all creatures in their lands may have led to the legendary encounters with an ancient race of Sasquatch roaming the lower region of the ancient Uwharrie Mountains. They are ancient. It's like similar. It's like the Appalachians, where they've just been around for a very long time. There's some strange things in these hills. The Native Americans created the trails used later by English, French, and Scotch-Irish settlers to the Piedmont. The settlers built roads over these Indian trails, and these roads evolved into the modern road systems of today. In an earlier time, the Indian tribes followed the now extinct ancient hairy buffalo herds as they cut paths through the pristine environment of the Piedmont. These paths became the Indian trails. By local Indian legends, the Native Americans were not the only two-legged creatures to follow these same trails. Often bands of traveling Indians crossed paths with these other two-legged creatures in the wilds of the Piedmont. The Sasquatch beings were said by Indian legend to have walked alongside Native Americans, with the Indians on one side of the path and the creatures on the other. The young children of the tribe tracked with their parents on their first hunting expeditions. The children's naive description of what they encountered was vivid and downright frightening when related by the old-timers. As a young person myself hearing these stories, I automatically sensed a connection with the young Indians and proceeded to blurt out a succession of questions that took the old-timers by surprise, since I was more of a listener than a talker. The old-timers' nickname for me was the Quiet One, but that was not the case this evening. I rattled off these questions which the old-timers were happy to answer. What did the young Indians see? How did they react to what they encountered? What did the creatures look like? Jack, the college-educated old-timer, answered these questions and many more. The more was in the form of a background story of the area of the Indian party and the Sasquatch. Jack had ancestors who resided in Bagtown, a small hamlet a few miles southeast of Salem. We're going to go past this. This is a lot of just like who settled in this area. It's not super relevant. All right. Bagtown and then circa 1800 Waughtown contained many of the eastern roads in and out of Salem for more than 100 years. Paths crossed between residents of Salem and Waughtown and the beasts called Sasquatch on numerous occasions throughout history. Jack explained, "My early ancestors were trappers and traded with the early Saponi and Cherokee. Our first tale of the Sasquatch encounter related by an Indian elder to my kin transpired on an Indian trail in the outskirts of the future, less than 5 miles southeast of Salem. The tribal hunting party with youths in accompaniment was tracking game in the early 18th century. Their paths suddenly crossed with the woolly buffalo, a nearly extinct breed, smaller than buffalo, of Western notoriety. However, this journey was different. As the Native Americans approached a turn in the path, what at first appeared to be one of the hairy buffalo gave the lead Indian and the little ones an eye-opening experience. Headed in the Indians' direction was not one, but an enclave of Sasquatch. The family of Bigfoot included a male leader about 8 feet tall, a female about 7 feet tall, and 4 smaller ones measuring between 6 and 4 feet tall. What surprised the Indian youths was that the Sasquatch family literally moved to the right of the path while walking in a straight line in descending height. The young Indians immediately were told by the lead Indian to look straight ahead and not focus on the hairy beasts. I suppose that's useful information in case you ever come across one. Don't look it in the eye, I guess, out of respect. They were told to not focus on the hairy beasts. The youths noticed that the lead Indian passed the lead Bigfoot. A simple nod by the Indian was given. The youths were frozen in fear. The party of Native Americans tracked nearly a mile before the lead Indian stopped and further explained what everyone had just encountered. He explained that his ancient ancestors had existed alongside these holy ones for thousands of years. The lead Indian spoke as if he were consumed by the Great Spirit, their Indian god. He related to the hunting party and the rest of the village how the Great Spirit had created the hairy beast to watch over their people and protect them in their earthly journey. Mr. Johns related a profound statement from the lead Indian. All are our brothers, and if any future encounters with the holy ones are experienced, the protocol should be followed, no exceptions, which is just the protocol of like treating them with respect. Don't look them in the eye, just like respecting them for who they are. And honestly, that was kind of the vibe I got when I was down in the woods having a conversation with whatever it was that it was out there, the entity, was that it's a neutral energy, but their moral code is different from ours, and they are to be respected. They are protectors, though, and their moral code follows under their job description, which is protection of the land and the ones in it. Old-timer Jack further explained how his early ancestor, a trapper, had an encounter of his own while tracking a rare woolly buffalo, which turned out to be a Sasquatch. Thankfully, the trapper realized its true identity before maiming or even killing this holy one. Indian folklore states that if you harm this beast, you and your tribe will be cursed. The Moravians of Salem were very religious and superstitious, and believed the folklore of the Native Americans paralleled with their Holy Bible concerning God and the curses on humanity. Beyond Waughtown in Southside lies the Moravian town of Crossroad, known as Kernersville today. Waughtown was no Moravian township, and caution was always on the Moravian lips to traveling residents and strangers who passed through these lands. I still agree with that energetically. And if you ever go to Old Salem, which is the original Moravian settlement in the 1750s or 60s, somewhere around that time, it has this really good bubble of energy there. It's still just like a really great energy in there. And Kernersville also has this nice bubble of energy, but that space between the Waughtown area, which we have lived on the south side before, it's a little grittier. There's some darker energies there. Crazy things happen. Actually, a lot higher crime. It definitely has this less protected feeling. So their caution was genuine. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the old blessings that the Moravians gave to their settlement in the beginning, and those maintained to this day, I feel. You can feel it when you go there. I highly recommend checking it out. Our story of Bigfoot updates itself with a personal journey of my own into the unknown in the 1960s and 70s. As a youth in the 1960s, I had a relative living in Southside near the neighborhood of Old Waughtown Grammar School in the 1920s. I've lived there before. 2 blocks west of the Nissen Wagon Works from the 1830s. A new development in that area had been created in the 1950s, extending to what the locals call the woods of Waughtown. This development was formerly a large farm dating back over many years. What I discovered traversing the woods of Waughtown with a family friend was a tale much older than the school, the wagon works, or even the farm. Mr. Dewberry was a neighbor of my relatives in the 1960s. He had been retired for a few years prior to 1960 and was a self-proclaimed treasure hunter. Daily, he grabbed his trusty metal detector, a gift of retirement, and headed to the woods. He had unearthed Indian arrowheads, old colonial coins, bits of pottery, and the like. His best treasure, though, was shared with me, a place he called the encampment. This appeared to be a settlement dating to pre-colonial times. It included one log structure and several remains of other structures near a very productive creek with an abundance of clay in its banks. He had found hundreds of Indian arrowheads here, along with shell casings and colonial long rifles. Deeper into the woods, he discovered old wooden and rotting pens, which appeared to be used for both small and large animals. One of the reference points to this encampment was called the Big Rock, a large exposed granite rock over 6 feet tall and twice as long. I could have stayed here into the night searching for clues of the past, but Mr. Dewberry scolded me and said, "Not after dark, or the booger man will get you." As we headed back to civilization, probably less than a mile, he weaved a tale of a wild man who had roamed Southside, especially through the woods, going back hundreds of years. He said he spotted him late one afternoon while by himself at the encampment. He was a very tall, large man, apparently covered with hair. Mr. Dewberry related, "It spooked me a little, and I headed back home. The next morning I returned to the encampment, and near the creek at the large rock, I found several large footprints in the clay. The bare footprint was 2 times the size of my own and twice as wide. I have a 10.5-inch foot." Mr. Dewberry became ill, and not long after he passed away. I spent many Friday and Saturday nights at my family's residence on Lewis Street, and often the holler of the wild man was heard by all, radiating from the woods of Waughtown. In the late 1970s, the hairy wind would strike again on Marble Street, one street south of Lewis Street. A rare Winston-Salem winter storm had dusted the Southside neighborhood overnight. The kids and adults awoke to a blanket of soft snow and large human-like footprints across their backyards, ending at the last house next to the woods. A prank, the adults thought. However, the backyards were lined with 5-foot chain-link fences dividing ×2 between each house. The Bigfoot creature with the 20-plus sized foot had to have a gait equal to an 8-foot or larger man. There was no break in its stride at the fences, which were built for protection. It was as if the fences had not existed at all for the Bigfoot booger. The old-timers referenced the Native American legend of the Holy Ones to describe the Bigfoot as protectors and the land and its people. Who knows when our current land and its people will need a protector? But watch out, it may come as a booger in the night. So that's the story of the booger man in Winston-Salem. I had to come inside. It was so hot outside. It's quite a scorcher this summer. In conclusion, I haven't done as much research on this topic as I feel I could to explore this area here. I have other theories that I've heard from other people, dreams people have had, etc. But I am curious to know what all you have for experiences and theories, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. So if you would share that with me, that would be super fantastic. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment if you would like to talk about something specifically. Yes, so thanks for watching. Bye.